Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Hamid Elamir. I am the host of podcast with Dr. E. At this podcast, I sit with the world's experts in health, education, and community development to talk about current health challenges and ask them to share their experience, knowledge, and insight with all nations across the world, especially the developing countries, so that we can learn from experts across the globe. My guest today is a great physician and a well known ophthalmologist who's been featured at CBS, at Fox 5, and New York Times, and many more. She is Dr. Rudrani Banik. Thank you for your time, Dr. Banik.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. E. I really appreciate being on your show.
It's a pleasure. Dr. Rudrani Banik is beyond an eye doctor. Dr. Banik specializes ophthalmology, neuro-ophthalmology, and headache. She has created a center of excellence using her unique approach to vision and health and wellness. Dr. Banik is internationally known for her expertise in ophthalmic and neuro-ophthalmic care. She manages a wide spectrum of conditions affecting vision, as well as the complex connections between the eye and brain. She combines traditional medicine, medical, and surgical treatments of the eye with nutritional and lifestyle approaches for a more integrated, holistic approach to vision and brain health. Dr. Banik has won many awards, including Castle Connolly Top Doctor and New York Magazine Best Doctor. She is frequently featured in the media, as I said, as an expert in the field. She has a special interest in treating headache and migraine. Dr. Banik manages a wide spectrum of conditions affecting vision as well as the complex connections between the eye. And examples would be cataract, diseases of the optic nerve, migraines, eye pain, headache syndromes, and double vision, and many more, even brain tumors. Let's get started with a personal question, and that is what made you interested in pursuing a career in ophthalmology? In other words, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say that I love what I do. It's truly my passion. And my passion began probably at the beginning of medical school when I was just fascinated by the structures of the eye. It's such a small organ, but it's just so critical to our lives. I would say that of the five senses, our sight is perhaps the most precious. We use it for everything, basically. And so treating eye disease is very rewarding. For example, by doing a simple cataract surgery that can take 15 minutes, you can restore someone's functionality, allow them to read again, to drive again, watch television, see the faces of their loved ones. So it's very rewarding in that sense. Ophthalmology is also a very technical field. We use a lot of instruments. We use a lot of advanced surgical techniques. So in that sense, I love working with my hands, so it's very rewarding. And then I also combine that with my training in neuro-ophthalmology connects the eye to the brain. So I deal with a lot of, as you were mentioning, a lot of neurologic issues that affect vision. So strokes, brain tumors, multiple sclerosis, autoimmune diseases. I deal with a lot of that as well. So that provides me a lot of intellectual stimulation. I would say across the board, for me, it's really been, I think, the best choice going into this field. And it's always constantly evolving. There's always so much more that we're developing and learning about in terms of eye disease and treating vision condition. It's always constant learning in the field.
Absolutely. And medicine in general is constantly changing, and we have to stay updated. And it's a field where you can work a combination of surgery and internal medicine. It's great.
The other thing is that ophthalmology, eye diseases can affect anyone from infants, newborns, to people who are centenarians. So it also allows me to treat people of all different ages, race, backgrounds, anyone can have an eye problem. So it's also very rewarding.
Absolutely. And it makes it a little challenging too to have all that wide range of ages. um, And I also read in your bio that you are also interested in functional medicine. Could you just elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So many people have never even heard of functional medicine or integrated medicine, and I myself had never even heard of it until about 6 years ago. So basically, what it is functional medicine tries to find the root cause of a disease. So
Mhm.
not just to treat it, put a band-aid on it, but really to find where is it coming from and address that root cause. And in functional medicine, the concept is that our body, we have the different organs in our bodies, but they all work together in concert. And disease happens when there is an imbalance in our organ systems. And so functional medicine tries to restore balance to the organ systems by approaching it through a different lens. Typically in traditional medicine, we think about what the tools that we have. Of course, we do the exam, we have our medications that we use, sometimes surgeries. But in functional medicine, the foundation is really based in nutrition and nutrition science and biochemistry. And it's all, again, getting to the root cause of disease, like where is it coming from? So for example, if someone in eye disease has dry eye, what is causing that dry eye? Not just to treat it with drops or other therapies, but really to dig deep. Or cataract, for example, why is it happening? How can we try to prevent it? So that I've introduced that aspect into my practice over the past few years. And I've actually pursued additional training in functional medicine. It's basically taken me 4 years to do the certification track. And it really adds, something to my practice, which many ophthalmologists probably, they may do some basic nutrition counseling, but I really delve deep into it because I really do think that so much disease can be prevented with healthy lifestyle choices and healthy nutritional choices. And eye disease is no exception to the rule. So it's been, really, really rewarding. And I hope my patients appreciate it as well.
I totally agree with you. And it's very interesting that you mentioned the root causes. And certainly myself, I switched from clinical work into more of public health, doing my master's in community health education. And I did a residency in pediatrics back in Afghanistan. And I was sitting at the hospital where I was seeing, patients every day with other doctors at the OPD. And most of those children, unfortunately, are coming there to a tertiary hospital just due to some readily preventable diseases such as diarrhea and pneumonia. And I was just asking myself, am I really helping people? What am I doing here? Just treating kids with those preventable diseases. That made me think about, as you just mentioned, the underlying causes of all those health issues. And that has to start from every individual. And that's what I started to focus on community health education and see what are the upstream approach to health. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And I think it's very important to integrate all that, the root causes in functional medicine, as well as the nutrition part of it, and people's lifestyle into medicine, and combining that is just a masterpiece. And
Yeah, I think the word you just used, and it's integrating. So I
yeah.
want to point out that if there's a practitioner that you're seeing who does functional medicine, it doesn't mean that you're going to put traditional medicine on the side. We're going to integrate it together simultaneously. So it's not one or the other. And
Mhm.
so many people think, oh, if I do this, then I don't have to take my medication, or I don't need to do this procedure. But it's not necessarily that.
Mhm.
We try to give the best options for our patients, and sometimes it's a combination of traditional and functional medicine therapy.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, as you are an ophthalmologist, and the audience here for this podcast is a wide range of people, from lay person to health professionals. I would like you to tell us a little more about the functions of the eye and how the eye works.
Sure. So as I was mentioning, the eye is a very small organ.
Mhm.
It's about the size of a golf ball. Despite its small size, it has 40 different parts, and they all over 40 parts. Then they all work together in this beautifully orchestrated way. And so, when I explain the eye, how it works, think of it as like an old style camera, not a digital camera necessarily. So there's the front of the eye is the cornea. It's clear. It lets light come in. And then the light comes in through an aperture, which is the pupil. It's that dark part in the center of our eye. And what controls the size of the pupil is the iris. That's the colored part of the eye. And that's something dynamic. It's constantly changing size based on how much light is coming in. And then, so imagine a light beam coming in through the cornea, through the pupil, then it hits the lens, and the lens is inside of our eye, and it focuses all those light beams into the back of the eye, which is the retina. So the retina is similar to the film of the camera. And then it captures those images, but then the images have to be processed. So the images are then sent through the optic nerve to the brain. The back of the brain is where our vision center is. So a lot of people don't realize this, but we actually don't see with our eyes, we see with our brain. But the eye is kind of the camera that allows all that information to come through, and then the brain does all the processing. For example, motion and color and form, all the fine details, that's all taken care of by the brain. So it's really just this amazing organ that nature has, that's evolved over probably billions of years into what it is today. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a clear picture of the eye and how it functions. I was just picturing that in my brain. Also, if we think about tools or the things that we use, gets worn out. Just give that example of camera. If you use a camera, all of a sudden, after a while, you would see that the camera is not functioning, or it's broken or something. How about the eyes? The eyes get tired?
That's a great question, and I wish we had hours to talk about this because there's so much to talk about. So there are, again, many structures in the eye. Some of those structures can develop damage over time, and it does happen. It's part of the natural aging process. So for example, I tell people if they live long enough, they're going to develop three things with their eyes. Number one, the need for reading glasses. Almost everyone ends up, needing reading glasses at some point, probably in their 40s or 50s. The second thing that happens to everyone, wrinkles. Everyone gets wrinkles around the eyes. You can't avoid that. And the third thing are cataracts. So everyone gets cataracts at some point if you live long enough. But in terms of, other things that can happen in terms of fatigue, eye fatigue, or what we call eye strain, it's actually quite common where images may seem blurry. They may not be in focus, or the eyes may get they may feel heavy or tired or scratchy, or they may get red. They may be, you may want to just rub your eyes. Sometimes people even have headaches or light sensitivity. So this eye fatigue can happen just, from excessive use, or particularly associated with digital eye strain or use of digital devices, which is something that many of us are doing right now. Like it or not, we do it for work, for education, to connect socially with others, or being on Zoom calls. So we're always on our devices, and this can cause a particular kind of eye fatigue that we call digital eye strain.
This actually leads me to the next question. In this digital era and a lot of screen time and with computers and phones and everything, there's this question that maybe you can tell us a little more about the blue light and the digital eye strain.
Great question. It's actually a hot topic now in the media. Blue light, many people hear about blue blocking glasses. Should I get blue blocking glasses? So let me just take a few steps back and explain what blue light is and where it comes from and what kinds of issues it can cause. So blue light, first of all, is everywhere. It's not just coming from our devices. It is everywhere. So we're surrounded by blue light. But there's a natural source of blue light, which is the sun. And that's actually where we get the majority of our blue light from. And then there's artificial sources of blue light, for example, from devices, whether it be phone or computer or tablet, TV screen. All of these digital devices send out blue light. And blue light, if you think about the rainbow, all the 7 colors of the rainbow, blue light is on one end of that spectrum. So it's on the shorter wavelength end of that spectrum. And the concern with blue light and vision is that because it is on the short end of the spectrum, these are very high energy waves. In some studies and in some research studies, it's been shown that these very, very high energy waves can potentially cause damage to the retina in the back of our eye. So that's why the whole, concern arose about too much screen time, too much blue light exposure, and potential damage to our vision. So again, devices are just a fraction of the blue light that we get exposed to, but the waves, even within blue light, there are 3 different kind of categories, like short, medium, and longer blue wavelengths. And most of our devices emit wavelengths that are a little bit on the longer side of the blue light spectrum. So they will not cause damage, or at least not that we know of, because if blue light truly caused damage to our retinas, we would have an epidemic of blindness right now, right? And eventually we would all lose our vision. So that's not happening. And so, it's important to keep that in mind, that blue light does not cause permanent damage, even though there were some studies that suggested that it might. All those studies were either in a petri dish or in animal models, but not in human models. So that's number one. But certainly blue light can be associated with a couple of things. It can interfere with our sleep-wake pattern. So because blue light naturally comes from the sun, we're supposed to get blue light at certain times of the day and not get it at other times of the day, because it works with a gland in our brain called the pineal gland to tell us, it's time to wake up. So if we get blue light to exposure too late in the day, it can make it harder to fall asleep or stay asleep. So that is definitely true. The second thing is blue light has been associated with digital eye strain, which is what I was talking about before. When we have trouble focusing, we may have headaches, light sensitivity, blurry vision. That's all digital eye strain. And yes, blue light can be associated with short-term eye side effects, I would say.
That's a great way to explain things, because a lot of it's just unknown. It's not clear for, especially for the lay person.
Yes.
To know what blue light is and how dangerous it is, or it is not, like, as you just said. It's interesting that with everything which is natural, the body is used to that in a natural way. As you said, like if it comes from the sun, that's a different thing. But when we surround ourselves with, artificial kind of blue light, that's a different thing. And the body, it's hard.
And artificial blue light at a time that we're not supposed to be exposed to blue light. If you're on your devices, and many of us are, myself included, into the night, if we're working late into the night, we're getting that blue light from our screens or from our phones. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. That's when it can cause a problem.
Absolutely. And this leads me to the next question, which is, what do you think of the virtual reality's effects on children's development, and visually what that might do to them?
So basically, it's a device or something that you put over your eyes that covers your eyes. And so you don't get external stimuli. You see what the device is showing you. And basically, you're immersed within a scene. And oftentimes it's used for gaming. So people do virtual reality games either at home or they go to a center. And it's quite enjoyable. It can be very fun. But, basically you're put into an environment where, for example, I tried this once. I was doing some virtual reality and I was doing rock climbing. So basically I was, going up the side of a cliff in virtual reality, and it's very real. What you're seeing is as though you're actually there, and you even hear the sounds like as you would in nature, and and it gives you this kind of feeling that you're up high, like your depth is, it does kind of convey that depth issue, perception. But the issue is, when we're doing gaming like that, virtual reality, it's basically separating out our senses. So you're getting visual input, and yes, you may be getting some auditory input, but you're not really getting proprioception input. And proprioception is the way our brain helps us to balance. We have a balance center in the back of our brain, and it helps us to balance when we're walking or doing an activity. So you're not really getting that input. So it's really, it's separating things out, and it's not in a way that our brains are used to. So there's kind of like a sudden change. There definitely is a risk of falls. There's a safety risk associated with it. And then of course the digital eye strain risk. So, many people love to do virtual reality. And what I would say is, if you're going to do it in moderation. So, do, maybe like 10, 15 minute periods, and then take a break, take it off and do something else, and get your eye, get your eye some natural stimulation, maybe walk around a little bit to re-ground yourself. But it's with really prolonged use that it can become an issue. Now that's for the entertainment side of it. Now there's really some interesting medical applications also, virtual reality, which is wonderful. So virtual reality is being used to help people rehabilitate after strokes, for example. It's been used for children with cerebral palsy to help them, learn skills. It's been used to help conquer certain fears. So it's used in psychiatric therapies. For example, if someone has a fear of heights, virtual reality can help them overcome that fear. So it definitely has therapeutic benefits, but in terms of the entertainment benefits, when you're in control of it, choose wisely, do everything in moderation, and it should be fine.
great advice there. It's very important to know that for every technology, there is advantages and disadvantages. Not only in technology, I think it's pretty much general in everything we use in life, all the tools that we use. But mostly for this part, as you mentioned, that how it can benefits in medical field, everything in moderation is good, and people should take this advice seriously, and especially with the children using this virtual reality and gamings and all those video games and stuff. Time's actually getting limited already to the end of this show, but let me ask you the very final question. What is your advice for our audience, especially for parents and of course for their children, on using with regards to screen time in this virtual reality, as you pointed your advice as an ophthalmologist?
Yeah, so if you think back to before the pandemic,
Mhm.
we had certain guidelines that we would recommend to parents as medical professionals on how much time should kids be spending on their devices. And the American Academy of Pediatrics actually put out some guidelines. So, for example, under the age of 2, really no screen time at all, from 2 to
Mhm.
5, maybe 1 hour a day, from 5 to 13, maximum 2 hours a day. And then for teenagers, it's hard to control them. So there was no guideline for teenagers. But now that we're in this pandemic and many children are on their devices much more than they normally would be, they're doing online schooling or connecting with friends, maybe gaming more. There really is no good guideline. But what I would say is, kids can get digital eye strain. Absolutely. I know I have
Mhm.
a daughter. She's in 7th grade, and she, for a day,
Mhm.
hours a day on the screen, she definitely feels it, and she knows. She says, Mom, my vision's blurry. I have, my eyes dry. So,
Yeah.
so what can you do to prevent that digital eye strain in your kids or even for you? Well, number one is to take breaks. And there's something that I like to recommend called the 20/20 rule. And when we think of 20/20, many people think of, oh, perfect vision, 20/20 vision. But the 20/20 rule is basically, it means that every 20 minutes, you're going to take a 20-second break. So set
Mhm.
your timer, use your phone or whatever timer you have. Every 20 minutes, take a break, and all you have to do is just close your eyes for 20 seconds
Mhm.
and maybe take some deep breaths while you're doing that. And when you close your eyes for 20 seconds, it will help your eyes relubricate. It
Mhm.
will relax your eyes. You're not focusing on anything. It'll kind of refresh and recharge your eyes to get ready for another round of 20 minutes. So that's the simplest thing you can do.
Right.
The second thing you can do is if your eyes do get dry, if your child's eyes get dry, use lubricating drops. There are over-the-counter lubricating drops, many different brands out there, but they work very well. And I would put them in before screen time and
Mhm.
then maybe like every 2 hours while someone's on a screen. So that helps. Or put like a humidifier, that you can get these small desktop humidifiers. Keep that by a workstation, your child's workstation or your workstation.
Mhm.
That can really help. And the most important thing for digital eye strain, I think, is a diet that's rich in nutrients that are going to support your eye health. And again, this kind of goes back to the functional medicine aspect of things. If you
Mhm.
can protect your vision and your vision and brain health with proper nutrients, you can avoid a lot of eye diseases down the road, like glaucoma and macular degeneration, perhaps even cataracts. So nutrients are really important, even for kids. And I talk about this a lot on my social media and my blogs, but
Mhm.
the nutrients you're going to get are from fruits and vegetables that are high in 2 compounds, lutein and zeaxanthin. So lutein and zeaxanthin, many people have probably never even heard of these compounds.
Mhm.
And I like to call them vitamin L and vitamin Z, even though officially they're not really vitamins. But they are pigments that are in our retinas. They're naturally there in the back of our eyes, and
Mhm.
nature put them there to help protect against wavelengths of light. So they help absorb harmful wavelengths like blue light wavelengths and UV wavelengths, and they neutralize those wavelengths. So
Mhm.
they are our internal blue blockers.
Mhm.
So, a lot of parents ask me, should I be getting blue blocking glasses for my kids, or should I get like a blue blocking screen protector? Well, if you have these nutrients in your diet, you
Mhm.
don't need to do all of that. You're
Mhm.
naturally boosting your eyes' blue blocking potential. So get those nutrients from green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale, collard greens. You can get them from corn. You can get them from egg yolk, yellow and orange vegetables and fruits. These are all great sources of these pigments in the back of our eyes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banik. And it's very interesting the way you explain that, and you also talk from a functional medicine perspective as well as the nutrition part of it, and from a clinical perspective. It's a huge topic, and I think we should have more shows. Like probably you can talk more about nutrition part of it or the catch.
A lot of eye care providers are not trained in. During
Mhm.
my training, I can remember maybe like half a day on nutrition, med school, residency, and fellowship combined.
Mhm.
And really such an important topic. And basically, I've researched, I've taught myself a lot of this. And I think it's important for other eye care providers also to realize the importance of these nutrients and their patients, that they're the ones who are going to benefit. So thank you for allowing me to share some of this information.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure,
A
and
passion of mine. So
yeah, of course. And at the end of the day, it's your passion relates directly to it helps your patients and people in general when they know about what to eat, what is good for them, what is good for their eyes.
just want to mention I have a book coming out soon later this year. So if anyone's interested, you could please reach out to me or visit my website.
Absolutely, thank you. And what was the name of the book again?
So I'm still going back and forth with my publisher on the title,
Okay,
but
great.
I think it's going to be Macular Degeneration: What You Need to Know and How to Prevent It.
Yes, and close to when the book is coming out. Before that, we'll try to have you again on the show, and
Yeah.
we'd be glad to share that with the audience. And thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And dear audience, please stay tuned for more shows like this, and see you in the next episode.